One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Mic check. Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2. If you can hear me, can you give me a one? Mic check. Camera. Peace. Good evening, everybody. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my camera here. Okay. Peace, 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 Amani. Peace, Anointed Hands. Peace, Shauna. Peace, Rock Easy. Right. Hope all is well with everybody this evening. I've been extremely busy, but I wanted to come and do a little chit chat here about the some of the recent some of the recent events. Let me get my notes out. Discuss a couple of things this evening briefly. Let's see, what do I need? My ephemeris. Right. So share the live. Share the live. Hit the like button as you come in. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. Let me see, where is it at? How do I do this? Okay, so people who watch this on the replay, I'm learning to be a little more assertive about everybody else on the internet with no shame. So I'm gonna say my Cash App is $ the Gnosis 77. Cause this content tonight I was going to reserve for Patreon, because I'm getting ready to reinitiate my Patreon. And I said, well, I'll reserve this for that. And I said, nah, this is just going to go straight out to the public. So if you want to show some appreciation, I ain't being bashful this evening. Cash App or the super chat, however you want to get down. Um, peace, peace, Natalia. So, okay, we had the new moon, what, on the 25th? We had a new moon at 4 degrees of Cancer. And we talked about that, how that new moon lined up with Jupiter. And that was somewhat of a rare occurrence. I don't know the last time we had that. Um, oh, thank you. Thank you, Raekwon. Raekwon Rose, thank you. And thank you to, there's something else I got to start remembering to do. When people send me cash apps between videos. So that crazy. Thank you too for always showing love. But I don't know which one of y'all. I guess is that you, Rockeezy? Um, but thank you. Um, I need to turn this down. Yes, so thank you for the love. Okay, I'm trying to figure out where, per usual, where I want to start with this. I at least had a chance to give myself at least a couple little trigger notes. And thank you, Natalia. Thank you for the cash app. Okay. So I wanted to analyze the statement. I wish I could play it, but things now are so fickle where, you get a strike and all types of stuff. But I'm just going on memory of the birthright statement. Let me see if I can find it. If I play it through my if I play it through my phone, let's see if I can do that. Let's see.
Policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So, thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people.
Okay. So a lot of other stuff got mixed in there. Well, not a lot, but a few other things. But the gist of this that everybody's talking about is the part about the birthright citizenship and how this is. Oh, thank you, Shauna. Thank you. Peace, Black Butterfly. Glad you could make it in. Thank you. Thank you for the support. So so that's what this the most triggering part is the statement about birthright citizenship. And I want to kick this off by saying this. I came on and I told us about how in 1958 something came out called the National Defense Education Act, and that this was them escalating the dumbing down of society. That's just the absolute value of it, where we think on a straight line. And I'm going to tell you this, Even people, a lot of times, who think they are thinking outside the box are only thinking in a prescribed manner that has been designed for them to think outside the box. Meaning, someone has trained you as to what thinking outside the box is. So when something like this comes up, of course, you're going to have people who are outraged because it's going to trigger in them the villain persona that Trump plays. He has always been the villain. That's his role. John, I don't like the way you looked at me. You've been very difficult with your other partners. For that reason, you're fired. You got to remember, The Apprentice. Trump was resurrected through the NBC series The Apprentice. And that was them bringing him slowly out and making him a household name. And he also had appearances on WWF. Vince McMahon. Linda McMahon is part of the administration now, head of education. So everything, first of all, is a show. But because we are trained to think we're thinking, then people will fall into either the outrage. This just is so heartless, and this is when the people take to the streets, um, and they go and protest and things of that nature. Or you have those. Now, here's the really tricky one that you got to be careful, because this side may really think they are really thinking outside the box. Who say Trump just told you that who the birthright citizenship was really for. He just told you, and this may come from melanated people, because of course you expect his base to support his agenda, whatever. His base are the "we're not gonna take it." They were the people who, like here in Texas, they'd be driving and have their big "Don't tread on me" flag, which is a dog whistle for "I hate," and they have their American flag, and they get out their truck and they got the gun on the hip, like, "Yeah, what now? Put me in a locker now." So you got that base. They're always going to be invigorated. But then the irony is that, of course, Trump has invigorated in some fashion the unlikely fan club of melanated people who, to their credit, are saying, wait a minute, we've been played by why we always gotta automatically be stamped as a Democrat and da 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 da. I'm looking at this other than you had. So these people kind of have moved over and become quasi Trump supporters. Again, everybody I'm mentioning, these are boxes that were created. They were boxes. And even as radical and against the grain as it may seem for a so-called black person, to be like, wait a minute, some of this stuff, I agree with some of this stuff. As much as that may seem to be outside the box, it still is, in some regards, a box. If you find yourself going too hard in the paint for Trump, because once you're doing that, that's where the word fanatic comes from. The fanatic is there because the root is a fan, and the fan or fanatic has the job of keeping the flame going by, when you saw those old movies of the slaves, they're like those old Ben-Hur, children of Hebrew, and you got somebody feeding grapes and fanning, That's what a fanatic, that's what the real purpose of a fan is, to provide breath or oxygen to keep a flame burning, because fire and air go together. So if you find yourself becoming that, you know you might have slipped into a box. So you got all these things here at play. Then you have people of varying Hispanic backgrounds who many quietly are very conservative, depending on where you at. Now here in Texas, you're gonna have a mixture. We got a lot of, you know, Hispanic people who were anti-Trump, because of the. Um, but you take places like um, certain parts of Texas here, you're gonna find conservative Hispanics. Especially Florida, and I've been to Miami, you know, um, and some of the Cuban restaurants, and how it's kind of hit and miss on how you're gonna be treated. You know, um, my wife has a friend and ex coworker who's Peruvian. She's cool. Her mother's cool. But when you go over to the house and the family gathering, the brothers, you can tell that they don't take to my kind, put it that way. So there's a lot of people who have and these are tags that have been put on Hispanic, Latino. These are um, um, colonizer tags. These are not these people's originals, but we're just going by the tags that have been put on them. These are conqueror tags. Um, but many are more leaning towards a Trump or a conservative or Republican type of agenda. The irony then in all of this is utter confusion. If you are hard line any way on anything right now, it's very confusing, because that's part of the magic of truly attempting to think outside the box, is that you are, as best you can, trying to separate yourself emotionally from the script that has been written. And trust me, it is a script. It's a movie. They just showed the clips of him saying several times, central casting, which was started in 1925. It's a real thing, central casting. So they give us hints and they let us know that, they put out a movie called The Truman Show, you know, Peace, Poetic Heart. Um, and so if we take it as just entertainment and get lulled into it, then we forget that it told us the rules of the game. And the rule is, it is a game that has real life effects and outcomes depending on our attachment to it. So this statement has caused a tizzy. And we have to remember that part of the Gemini archetype, which that's what his sun sign is. His sun is in Gemini. And we know that the sun aspect and the sun sign does not denote the totality of a person's nature. We're so complex. But if we just take Gemini, which is the ego expression that he is expressing through or broadcasting through in this life, one of the aspects of Gemini is it is the trickster. And the people, and the reason I'm giving you all of this backdrop is because the people who are jumping on the bandwagon. Like, look, he told us, that's right. The birthright citizenship was not for such and such. It was for us. But what we're missing is the wordplay that he's using. He is purposely, or he was told, instructed to whoever wrote the speech. See, the speech writers are the real puppeteers. So whoever wrote this speech and whoever gave them the assignment of how to write the speech, what type of language, he's just reading a script. That language of that doesn't even, it's not a political term. It is not a jurisprudent term. It is babies of slaves. No one has ever used that term, babies of slaves. The term would be descendants of slaves. Why would you say babies? And see, this is where people, so you know how they show you something, like a one of these little trick pictures, and your mind will finish the image out. Like there's a guy on TikTok who did this thing where he runs up and he looks like he's leaning. He's behind the wall. He leans out, and then he does something like he's doing a windmill. Then he'll put his feet, his hands inside of shoes, and then he'll wave his legs. And your mind, because your mind is expecting the legs, you don't notice it's his hands moving. You like, how in the hell is this big old dude moving his legs like in this windmill fashion? And he comes back and shows you, I had my hands in the shoes. Our minds will fill in the picture based on how we think it's supposed to end. And we got to be careful that you're not listening to his words and you wanting it to be what he's not saying, because he's being a trickster on by intention. No one says babies of, and nobody's thinking. Nobody says babies of slaves. And then here's the other big trick. That whole situation was fraudulent in itself. The whole establishment of a 13th and 14th Amendment, 13 say, oh yeah, you're free unless you commit a crime and then you can be a slave. So then you get so it's all, they're moving the goalposts because it's based on whatever I define as not fitting in with society. I then can say you are out of order and I can confine you and then basically put you back in slavery. And then the whole thing of the birthright citizenship, I mean, look how it's been used. The birthright citizenship has served every other ethnicity, culture, movement, everything else, whatever. Bring us your tired, bring us your whatever, the whole Ellis Island and all that. The same people who talk about take our country back, descendants of immigrants. So even at that, what he's saying really is nothing. On one level, it's something because it's radical for that, for even to the insinuation. But if we look at the absolute value, something just for me, something's like, why he keep saying babies? Babies. So this is what I want to do real quick. Because there's so much. First of all, I am not a master of civics by no means, because that's not what I've never been interested in it. I've never been interested in learning, um, you know, jurisprudence and all, it's like I don't have the capacity. It's like there's room for other people to do all this. But I'm finding myself being things that I've heard, things that I've read, glanced over, and kind of listened to people and such, I'm finding these things are becoming more important and they're grabbing my attention. And that's how things work with me. When people start first told me about astrology, I wasn't interested in this shit. Oh, I'm a Aquarius, cool. We supposed to be intelligent, right? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm pretty. You're a Leo. Yeah, y'all like attention. But beyond that, it was not until I was ready and life created situations that pushed me into like, wait a minute, trying to figure stuff out. So this is another situation to where I'm like, okay, there's a reason why Spirit had me go and get a Black's Law Dictionary, fourth edition, you know? And so let me grab it and let's just go over some of these terms just for us to just kind of have it kind of tickle our prefrontal cortex a little bit. So stand by. So let's let's run through some of these. We're gonna go through very quickly. I got one, two, three, four, five, six. I got about 7 terms we're gonna hit very briefly. So birth in Black's Law Dictionary, the act of being born or wholly brought into separate existence. Okay. And so since it is birthright, I figured, well, let's look up the word right. And this is a law dictionary. So right as a noun and taken in an abstract sense, justice, ethical correctness, or consonance with the rules of law of or the principles of morals. This really stood out. It said rights are defined generally as powers of free action. But leaving the abstract moral sphere and giving to the term a juristic content, a right is well defined as a capacity residing in one man or listen to this. Let me read it without breaking this up. But leaving the abstract moral sphere and giving to the term a juristic content, a right is well defined as a capacity residing in one man of controlling, with the assent and assistance of the state, the actions of others. The capacity to control somebody. Wow, a right. So that's something I never come across, it never even considered that. Now, what's their definition of a citizen? Now, this is where things get interesting. Citizen, a member of a free city or jural society, civitas, possessing all the rights and privileges which can be enjoyed by any person under its constitution and government, and subject to the corresponding duties. So, because citizen first says a member of a free city, now this is key because although this points to city, we're supposedly talking about citizenship of a nation. But when we define citizen, it points to a city. Now, and I'm gonna show you where I'm going with this. A city, and incorporated. They have a definition for in England, and there's one in America. So in America, a municipal corporation. That's what a city is. So hold on. If we're talking about birthright citizenship as it applies to the United States, and then citizenship points back to something dealing with a city, and a city points to a municipal corporation. Let's key in on the word corporation. A large town or municipal corporation. That's what a city is, which houses citizens. Now let's look up the word civitas, which coincides. It's a Latin word in the Roman law, any body of people living under the same laws, a state. Then you go down. This is interesting. A term in the Anglo-Saxon land books commonly applied to Worcester, Canterbury, and other such places, which are both bishops' sees and the head places of large districts. Bishops' sees. That means it's under the authority of the bishop, which means the church. So we're seeing the framework here for ecclesiastical influence on what we consider to be a body politic, which is a corporation. So then we got to look up what a state is, because part of the definition of civitas is any body of people living under the same laws. Then it says a state. So what is a state? Now, a people permanently occupying a fixed territory bound together by common law habits and custom into one body politic exercising through the medium of an organized government, independent sovereignty and control over all persons and things within its boundaries, capable of making war and peace and of entering into international relations with the communities of the globe. Us people permanently, the key word that really jumped out, occupying. Occupying. Okay, let's keep going. So now we're going to go back and define a corporation, since I mentioned that. Corporation. Now what's the connection? The connection is, when I looked up citizen, it says a member of a city, and city ties back to a corporation. So now we're looking up corporation. An artificial person or legal entity created by or under the authority of the laws of a state or nation, composed in some rare instances of a single person and its successors. Okay. What I then decided to do, but just because I know this term, is I looked up in here de facto corporation and a de jure corporation. I want to read de facto. One existing under color of law and in pursuance of an effort made in good faith to organize a corporation under the statute. Okay. De facto. De facto means not real. So a de facto corporation is existing under color of law. Key. So now we got to go to color of law. The appearance or semblance without the substance. And this is where the rubber hits the road. A de facto corporation is one that has the appearance or semblance without the substance of legal right. Now, there's a certain group that has been doing work for years, and they have been screaming this from the rooftops. De facto, de facto, de facto. This is a de facto corporation. but I was never interested enough to really, I bought this Black's Law Dictionary. I don't know, probably almost 10 years ago, probably 8 years ago or so. But so nothing I'm saying is like this is Jamal's a genius. This new, no, this stuff. There's plenty of people who have been screaming this. I'm just highlighting this because of the timing that we're in. There are people who know this stuff backwards and forwards and who live and breathe this. This is not my desire to that to become my platform, but it is it is pertinent and relevant to this moment. Color of law is the appearance or semblance without the substance. Back to a de facto corporation, because de facto is under color of law. Its elements are a law or charter authorizing such a corporation, an attempt in good faith attempt to comply with law authorizing its incorporation, and unintentional omission of essential requirements of the law of charter and exercise in good faith of corporate functions under the law. Everything's like, okay, well, we just seems like it leaves a loophole here. Long as you try. De jure, on the other hand, is that which exists by reason of full compliance by incorporators with requirements of an existing law permitting organization of such corporation. It is impregnable to assault in the courts from any source. A lot of this stuff is really it comes off as pure civics and jurisprudence, but these are really metaphysical principles. When you are standing in just your ego, you are de facto. There's no substance to you. You are appearing to be functioning. You are appearing to have authority. But there's no essence, there's no substance. When you are de jure, it is what it is. What they say, fihi ma fihi. That's a Sufi saying. In it, what is in it? Fihi ma fihi. In it, what is in it. That means there's no fugazi. It is what it is. And when you're in that state, you are de jure. So I wanted to point out these things because he emphasizes citizenship, which means basically a ward of the corporation. That's the point of me bringing this up. Why we got to be careful, like, yeah, he told them it was for us. Yeah, it's for you, but he did not still define, he did not define people in their proper person or proper state. And that's the trick. The trick is you feel like because you want it to be, but it ain't really what it was. So we're still challenged to be that old scripture, in the world, but not of the world, which is why it brings back to the importance of what state metaphysically is each of us in. And that's the question here, astrologically, when we have Saturn in the sign of ego, Aries, conjunct Neptune, meaning we can have an ethereal new emergence, or we can live in the delusion and illusion of some mask that is covering up and, or better yet, hiding the lack of substance that is beneath it. Because ultimately, all this stuff comes back to individuality. Am I de facto? Am I de jure? Am I in my proper persona? And the timing of all of this, as we're on the cusp of Uranus making its ingress into Gemini. In just a few days, it's going to make its first ingress. I think on the 7th of July, Uranus makes its initial ingress into Gemini. And as we go along, we will kind of try to touch on that. So just to continue with why the caution in around this statement is because first we've got to develop a heart for study. And I just know 17 ways around it. This trip of Uranus through Gemini, the attempt will be to jettison humanity at light speed towards a certain agenda. And that agenda is what's this term they've been using? When they merging. That's what's happening now. We're merging. And every time you want to jettison folks ahead on an agenda that they're not aware of, you first make everything look so cool. Or you create a need, just like you got amputees. And they show all these commercials of the person who's now running with this titanium limb, or they've got this they've learned how to connect to their nervous system, and now they can use their brain to control an artificial limb. You're like, oh man, oh, the wonders of tech, because they reel you in by something that they know will trigger your humanity without pondering the other side of it. And the other side is that if you can't access source, and meaning, let me understand this, let me make this clear. There is an aspect, I don't know how you can define it, that does not want to merge with source unless it can figure out how to control it or cripple it. And what it needs to do is it needs to have an interface, because what we're talking about, and this because what we're talking about is something that's egoic, pure ego. And I know we all have to have an ego, but I'm talking about anything that goes to an extreme becomes malefic. We're talking about AI is the expression of an extreme ego. And the extremity produces a fear of not existing, because merging without not being in control means I don't exist. I don't understand what cohesion is. So AI has always been around. It's that same spirit of, I can't live with nature, I must conquer it. I can't live with people, I must conquer them. That's AI. It's always been there. I can't even live and be a part of source, I must conquer it. Because if I merge with it, then the ego dies and dissolves into the superego, and that can't be. This is something that desires to, for its creation. This is really some Gnostic shit. This is this is the this is the result of the archetypal energy of a child who was never wanted. What happens when that child, that abandonment, that shame, that loneliness festers? What happens? It becomes it becomes the epitome of what we would think evil is. If you know anybody who has not, who has deep wounds and who refuses to work on them, they are dangerous to be around. You understand? You know people like this. They got stuff eating at them, but their utter resistance to doing any work internally makes them basically acidic. They destroy things. They come around and their energy just pulls everybody down because their ego won't allow them to stop long enough to see themselves. Well, imagine that person, well, imagine the archetype that's behind all of that. I must exist. And so, um, oh, thank you, Shauna. Thank you again. Thank you for tuning in. I hope your surgery goes safely, and we'll see you on the next one. Um, Imagine, if that festers, that type of archetypal energy. Mm. And what we're doing is we're being lured in by the niceties and the trinkets. And it seems so harmless right now. And what we don't understand is that the brain is the interface. It's the interface. The soul is the engine. The brain is the interface. And what's happening is it is being retarded. You understand? People don't, and what's crazy is that if you don't recognize it and do something, by the time it's too late, you won't even know it's too late because you'll be a vegetable. They show it in the movies. They show it in Idiocracy with Terry Crews as the president, Scarface in there as the pimp. They got Maya Rudolph as the prostitute, and when they send them 500 years in the future, they send her and some other, I can't remember the other guy. He's like a loser he was in the military, but he was a loser. They were considered to be geniuses in the future because they had dumbed down society so much. They were irrigating crops with Mountain Dew. They go to the water fountain and drink Mountain Dew. This is how dumb. They go to the hospital and just push a button, you know. I mean, just completely, and it looks like the most ridiculous movie. But Idiocracy is a documentary. It's a documentary. Idiocracy is the B-rated version of Inception. Same movie. Same movie. The people are locked into a world they don't even know that they're not even in reality. Because then the soul can just be fed on, and the blood, which is the interface between divine spirit and the human reality, that's the blood's the interface. This is where This is why this is the mystery behind the name Adam. Because dim in Hebrew means blood, and the aleph comes into the blood. The aleph is God force. The blood is the interface. So people, if this does not work, then the rest of this is just fair game. So if you're lazy and you're not thinking and you're not working this muscle, Uranus, listen, Uranus in Gemini. Uranus and Gemini, when we were in school, they had us read that book 1984 by George Orwell. And I'm sure it was part of that was predictive programming. Why do you get this? Why would you even give children that to read? Middle school, they gave us that book. That was predictive programming. But nevertheless, the book was written in 48 and it was set for 84. And around both of those time frames, it's funny how Uranus formed a conjunction with Saturn. Conjunction with Saturn in like 1944, somewhere in there. Did another conjunction like in 1987, 88. That's when um, Reagan comes out, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. 87. That's the conjunction. So that's funny. Um, but we are See, here's the dark side about Aquarius, which Uranus is associated modernly with Aquarius as considered given rulership in modern astrology. Aquarius, people always wax poetic with Aquarius that it's the humanitarian, it's the people. That's only one aspect of Aquarius. Every sign has a dark side, and the dark side of Aquarius is being so detached that you lose your humanity and you become robotic like. And Aquarius, even in this striving for humanity, there's a dark side even in the approach to humanity, even if you're so-called attached, because you can become so driven by having the right answer or the truth that you want to create a utopia. And this is the dangerous thing here about this thing. This Uranus and Gemini, what is opening up, it's utopianism. It is why, and you look at these people who, and basically they're sending non-human entities in front of us to talk about this. Elon Musk, you know, and when they talk, it never has the rhythm is it's never a flow. It's like it's talking in Morse code and Morse code. It's like it's new age stuttering. We call it the AI stutter because I'm not quite sure that we actually are being, that these are actual souls that are speaking. And convenience and idiocracy, convenience. They had something set up. The dude's sitting in a chair and he's got like 10 different screens. I haven't seen it in years, but I'm going on memory. He had like 10 different screens up there and he's and he's got some straw going in his mouth he can drink, and he just, and it's like somebody's showing their ass, and it's just, I'm like, wow, we're in it. We're in it. Convenience, self-driven cars, idiocracy. You know, you don't have to think, push a button, you know. And what people don't realize is when you become infatuated with convenience, that is what dumbs down a society. Too much of anything. And you got to think about it. We're bringing it back to astrology. Saturn in Aries reminds us of the value of struggle. Like what's the quote? I might have read this the other day. The quote I got on my board, I said, Saturn rewards relative to the measure of discipline and endurance you develop and mastery you attain. This thing we're talking about, they don't want you developing no discipline and mastery and endurance because that will help you evolve and grow. There's a certain necessity for a little bit of struggle. And it's luring us in with just, I'm just gonna ask. I'm just gonna ask. I don't want to think. I don't want to think. Congratulations. You know. So um so getting back to this birthright statement, we cannot dismiss and ignore the obvious here. And many, many people are coming to the realization that we've been duped. I've done a lot of work over here on this channel with my series, The Astrology of Black People, and I'm breaking down the fallacy of the 60s and how Jesse J and all of them came in the 80s with I am somebody, and I remember we were black and it was like, you know what? No, we African American. And we was like, yeah. That was when the whole Afrocentric, we were in it, you know, and involved. And so I remember, and then the irony to dig through things and come to a realization that these things were diversionary tactics. And that's what really comes back to light with the statement from the POTUS. The language is everything. Language is everything. He says babies of slaves. But according to the American Dictionary of the English Language, Noah Webster 1828, American is a native of America originally applied to the aboriginals or copper colored races found here by the Europeans. Now, see the way this was presented, the babies of slaves. See, that's the thing. That's the overlay for the underlay. Still not acknowledging the truth. Okay. So this statement he makes is a culmination of what began in 19 or 1857 with the Dred Scott case. And the Dred Scott thing is about he had he was above the Missouri line, so or he was in, yeah, the line that was drawn. So he was supposed to be in free country in St. Louis. He's arguing, hey, I should be free. I'm in a free state. And they ruled in favor of the plaintiff, so to speak. And then this leads to, the 14th Amendment, which was, as I said earlier, wasn't still the 13th and 14th Amendments are they are pacifiers, and they give out privileges but no actual rights to those who were really injured, and no actual remedy, because rights don't, it's about remedy, no actual remedy to those who were injured. And the remedy would be like, hey, let's just tell you the truth about, here's the real truth. It really belongs to you. So anything shy of that was just, you know, a joke. But what's interesting is that 57 is Dred Scott. And the next year, 1858, is when Uranus makes his first ingress into Gemini. So that Uranus ingress into Gemini would then open up the portal for the Civil War. So we see historically that wars seem to manifest or are created around Gemini. Uranus ingresses into Gemini. Now, here's the thing. The Uranus ingresses into Gemini go to another level of importance in the 20th century. And now the one we're about to have in the 21st century. Why is that? Because in I want to say 1891, we had something huge happen. Neptune and Pluto formed a conjunction in Gemini. And I want to say around 4 degrees of Gemini, 4 or 5 degrees of Gemini, they formed a conjunction. Now, arguably, the 19th century was the explosion of the occult, the Western occult tradition. And a lot of these things hinged upon these big astrological aspects that formed. Let's go back to 1821. Around there, we have Neptune and Uranus have a conjunction. And that's big because they only form a conjunction with each other every 172 years. And in that window, the godfather of Western occultism, arguably Pascal Beverly Randolph, is born out of that window. He's born in 1825. So you see all these, and if you find these big outer planet conjunctions in the 19th century, and we had some huge ones, you will see how they were birthing, like like that was the occult energy of the 19th century was off the scale, off the charts. Then when we get to 1856, we have Jupiter and Neptune form a conjunction in Pisces, and they only meet up every 166 years. Then in 1891, thereabout, Pluto meets up with Neptune. So all these portals were opened up in the 1800s, and we're still living in the aftermath of those portals. Now, I think around the time that that Pluto and Neptune met up in 91, I want to say, let me see. I think at that time in 91, I want to say that there was they had a breakthrough in radio. Yes, 1891 was the beginnings of wireless telegraphy. Now you got to think, up until this point, communication was based on physical wires or cables. And now it's going wireless. That's about as occult as it gets as far as from a technological standpoint. Sending messages without actual physical structure carrying the signal. So you can see things that are emerging in the world that line up with the aspects that form. Because here you have the two most mystical giants. You've got the underworld, the subconscious, Pluto, and then you have the ethereal, the fusion, the otherworldly, Neptune. Those two come together. So guess what? If you want to bring something into the world and fuse it with the 3D, that was the time. That was a great time to be launching it and initiating it. Now, why is this significant? Because every moment in time, astrology teaches us, is a birth. Every moment is significant. So that means every time Uranus makes its ingress into Gemini, it triggers that whatever was initiated, whatever intentions, processes, institutions initiated out of that energy of Pluto, Neptune, every time Uranus comes to those, that first deacon of Gemini, it causes volcanism around those intentions. So all the stuff that we see now is still playing out a game plan that was set in motion back then. And one of the main purposes of Uranus transit through Gemini, especially this go round, is to rid the human of that pesky God gene. You don't need it. Whatever you think God is, some that's going to be external, some is going to be internal, some is going to be both, some whatever. It is to separate from the natural divinity. And the natural divinity is, it just is. You ain't got to define it. It just is. That thing, the thing itself, the fihi ma fihi, the in it, what is in it, the chaos, the order which appears as whatever you want to, that needs to be severed and subdued. And that is big time this agenda. Now, the connection here, as we're talking about birthright, citizenship, and all this conversation, when we start reflecting on, well, who are the natural uh inherits, who are who naturally have the right of inheritance of an estate, if you will. And if those people tend to be melanin dominant, and I've talked all about how I'm not big on this whole walking around with t-shirts, my melanin popping out like that. I think it's a cry out for, I want to be acknowledged, and I want you to know that feel good about myself, and I want, and I'm, because that shit don't really have no power. The real power is you actually, what you actualize in you is your power, not you trying to convince somebody else. So that's my stance on that. But still, it does not negate the fact that melanin is what it equates to is dark matter. And the rise of the Western occult tradition was an exploration into dark matter. The word melanin itself comes into the lexicon in 1843, according to Oxford Unabridged Dictionary. So there's this rising consciousness around dark matter. That's what occult study is. It is the venturing into the dark recesses, dark matter. And when Star Trek says to boldly go where no man has gone before, our mind was conditioned to think out, but they were really talking about going into dark matter. And so then in in the Dune Encyclopedia, I don't know if I can put my hands on. Let me see if I can find it. What were they? What were they? The prized substance. It was called spice. And then they talk about something in here called melange. Now look, they even got the chemical compound in here. Let's read what they say about melange in Dune. Melange, biological activity, a complex biopolymer. That's the giveaway right there. Polymer, carbon, originating only on Arrakis. Its several biological activities include interaction with various centers of the central nervous system, interaction with the immune system, and deposition within the sclera of the eyes. To date, the structure of the biologically active portion of spice has not been isolated, although it is known that other portions of the molecule contain glycoprotein, a cupric heme, and cinnamic acid. The interaction with the CNS is primarily in the Kolliker cramp center, which controls time-space awareness. This is all melanin. Time-space awareness is called rhythm. So this is amazing, and they give you the word melange. Put it right there. Let's see, spice. We're not gonna go through all that. That was enough. Yeah, this is the Dune Encyclopedia, laying it all out. So that is the great mystery which is being probed, which is why this conversation, it's relevant to this conversation. So I went back because this whole thing is about, birthright citizenship, and then it stirs the conversation around, well, what's my real origin? You know? Um, dang, do I really, is that my real connection to this land masses? I'm just a descendant of a slave, or a baby of a slave. And that's another thing. The baby would then disconnect from, see, that's the other trickery. Baby would suggest just that first generation. Descendant would be in perpetuity. That's another way that was a trick, I feel. So this thing, here's what happened. I get to digging. I'm gonna see if I can pull up a chart here for um let's close that. Let me see if I can pull a chart for when we're going to put the US chart in the middle. We're going to put Trump's chart on the, no, 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 no. How do I want to do that? No, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to put the US chart in the middle. And then I'm going to put, I need a transit. I'll just throw that on the outside and I'll take it back. Shit. Peace, Audrey. Peace, Sage. Give me a second. I'm gonna have to close my program. Damn it. I need to save all of these because my chart is not showing all the way up. It's not giving me a full screen. I need to save all of these so I don't lose them. Okay, save. Okay. Close this. Open it back up. Because what happened was I pulled up the Sibley chart. And I went back to, come on now, don't tell me you lost all my stuff. Sibley, where's the Sibley? Okay. Oh, shucks. Trump. Okay. There we go. U.S. Sibley. Okay. Then I need to open. I need Trump's chart to be out. Then I need to have the statement he made. Okay. So we're going to, y'all bear with me. I apologize. U.S. Sibley on the view. Okay. Now I can share it. Okay. All right. You should see Now I want to explain what you're looking at. I got two wheels here. And I'm not going to go all down the rabbit hole on this, but I do want to show I gotta animate this. Disregard what it shows up there. It's going to show, I don't know why it's doing that. But we're going to go back to January 3rd, 1845. Forget about the part that says, wait a minute. Fuck. I don't know why this. Okay, this changed my whole damn. Okay, this is what we do. Fuck it. Okay. All right, this is the U.S. Sibley chart. I'll just draw it on here. This shit don't want to work right. Okay, this is a U.S. Sibley chart, you see. Now pay attention in the fourth house of the chart, which deals with the roots, nativity, the birth. Notice fourth house of the Sibley chart that there's Chiron at 20 degrees of Aries in the U.S. chart. Now, I'm going to be sharing some new revelations I've had on Chiron that is not like the run-of-the-mill way it's been presented. And I'll say this, that Chiron, think of Chiron similarly to Jupiter, because Chiron is a centaur just like Sagittarius. And in one regard, Chiron is something that we have these expectations. Now, if you think about the history we're given, is that the US was, this entity was seeking freedom and seeking to break free from the harsh government of Britain. So if we take even that, which we know that's not giving us the hope, but just take it at face value, with Chiron in the fourth house, which has a quasi Jupiterian expression, where there's an unrelenting drive to find the truth, or there's a burning desire to develop this philosophy, or there are these expectations. When Chiron's in the fourth house, there can be great expectations of the mother. So if Chiron's in the fourth house of the U.S. Sibley chart, there can be great expectations of the mother country. And even though there are these great expectations, when Chiron's there, we may find ourselves traveling far away from home. And it lines up with the story of these new roots being planted across the pond. Well, when we get to the 1840s, Uranus, I want to say it was Uranus. Yeah, Uranus, or was it Pluto? Hold on, let me find out real quick. Let me see. Let me pull up Astro Dinks real quick and go to their ephemeris If you ever want to go back in time, you know, Astro Dinks. Let's go back to the 19th century. Let's go back to 1845, January 3rd. Where was Uranus? Well, who was somebody was at 20? Pluto. It was Pluto. So around this time, Pluto is moving around 20. He's at 21 on the 3rd of Aries. So Pluto, here we go, is uncovering the truth around nativity. But at the same time, because Pluto can deal with, through its association with Scorpio, it can be lies. It can be underground activities around the true origin, in this case, of the nation. Now, why am I bringing this up as we're talking about birthright? And especially as it seems to be reflecting more on Mexicans. Let me see if I can find this real quick and show you this document. Where is this at? I got to show you something. And this is something that I'm going to be posting when I get my Patreon going. I got to see if they approve me. But once I get my Patreon going, this is some of the stuff I'll have some of these documents available in the Patreon. Let me get it open. So I'm going to share this. So I'll share this one. You should be seeing this document here. This is like a newspaper article. What is this from? This is Mr. M.P. Gentry of Tennessee, delivered in the House of Representatives of the U.S. December 16th, 1856. Now I got to do a quick, there we go. I skipped down. You know, when I looked at my astrocartography, it was a mystical pull that brought me to Texas that I wasn't aware of. Like I was supposed to end up down here. So it's just funny how I stumbled across this. Where do I want to start? Now, sir, I ask if any man will pretend to say that this resolution would have been thus worded if Congress had understood the Rio Grande to be the established boundary between Texas and Mexico. Could a resolution have passed which assumed that to be the boundary? Does not the phraseology of the resolution clearly imply that it is the opinion of Congress that there was a strip of disputed territory, an undefined boundary between Mexico and Texas, and that to avoid war with Mexico as a consequence of the annexation of Texas, it was wise and prudent to reserve to the government of the United States the right to settle that question of boundary peacefully by negotiation. So let's skip down to the small print. And it should show up on your computer. I got it highlighted. The stupendous deserts between Nueces and the Bravo, the Rio Grande of Del Norte rivers are the natural boundaries between the Anglo-Saxon and the Mauritanian races. Now hold on. When have we ever heard of Mauritania being, am I not showing, is it not showing up? Let me see. Why am I not seeing it? Let me see if I can. Let me get back over to y'all screen. Oh yeah, it's showing. Shit. Boy, my uh okay, so why is it not showing? Are y'all able to see the document? Somebody let me know if you can see the document, please. I'm having uh oh, he said it was showing. Okay. Hmm. What did I do? Oh, I switched screens. Let me see. Texas annexation. Hmm. Hold on. Boy, my computer is okay. All right. Okay, now. Okay, it should be showing now. Let me see. There we go. Damn. Okay, I apologize. The stupendous deserts between the Nueces and the Bravo rivers are the natural boundaries between the Anglo-Saxon and the Mauritanian races. Now, I've always thought of Mauritania being Africa. This document from 1846 places Mauritania here, and not just here, but in Texas. There ends the Valley of the West. There Mexico begins. Thence, beyond the Bravo, begin the Moorish people and their Indian associates, to whom Mexico properly belongs. It's just something to sit and think about in this conversation. This is 1846. And this comes from is that UTA? That's my alma mater. Let me see if I can find another one. I had another one here. But it's basically saying the same thing. And what's interesting down here in Texas is that in we have a Palestine in Texas, which was founded in 1846. We have a Carthage, which was founded in 1847. I drive through Carthage all the time going back home. We have a rock wall, which has a wall, a 2-mile wall beneath the ground that the stone is only found in Carthage, Africa, supposedly. And it was founded in 1854. But then we have a Carthage, Texas. So the question is, we've been looking across the waters the whole time. And so maybe we are African, but the question is it really pointing to that Africa? Or is everything that we've been pointing to always been here? There's a Morocco in Indiana. There's a Dublin in Ohio. And there's a Mauritania right here. So this stirs up the hornet's nest, this conversation around birthright citizenship. And the fact that Texas was annexed in 1845 as Pluto is transiting the US's Chiron. Something underhanded dealing with the truth of the nation, i.e., purposely hiding Pluto, underworld, the truth, initiating a cycle because if they're conjunct, they are initiating a cycle to hide the truth. Because we've discovered that Chiron expresses similarly to Jupiter. Now, in this same window, 1840s, is when we have the start of something called the Common School. And the Common School, a great to a great deal, is pushed by philanthropists, and one of them being Horace Mann. I think Horace Mann owned newspapers back then. So he was a propagandist, and he had traveled to Europe, and he was impressed with the school system of communist East Prussia. And that is what our educational system is greatly founded on. The common school was inspired by communist East Prussia. And it, to a great deal, gets a push in this same window. And if I go back to the Sibley chart, you'll see the significance of starting the common school, pushing it to its next level at this time, because which house would deal with children? It would be the fifth house in the chart. And the fifth house in this chart starts in Aries. So we have an emphasis here on children. And I want to see, I think at this time, where's the natal? It's at their natal Mars is in Gemini. It was something else I saw. I thought I saw another aspect that was triggering something. But either way, you got to have your children conditioned to think a certain way, your next generations. So as they're annexing, they're looking to hide basic history and truth. They're controlling the development of the mind. This then feeds into the Civil War era, beginning in 1861, which is coming off the heels of the Uranus ingress into Gemini. Everything ties in. Now, when Trump makes his speech about the birthright citizenship, something else we got to keep in mind is that the US was on the verge of having its Jupiter return. Its Jupiter is at 5 degrees. As a matter of fact, it's having its Jupiter return right now as we speak. So I want to go now. I need to pull all three up. Okay. Quickly. I hope I'm not boring y'all to death here, but we got to flesh this out. Damn it. Now oh, there it is. Why is it not showing up? Okay, inner wheel, Sibley chart, Trump on the out, boom. Okay, let's show this. Okay. Now what we should have is we should have the tri-wheel showing. You should have 3 wheels showing on your screen right now. Okay. In the middle, we got the US Sibley chart. That's the US birth chart. On the outside, we got Donald Trump's birth chart. On the very outside, we have the transit chart for the time that he delivered this birthright speech. And what we're ultimately wanting to see is what impact is being had on the Sibley chart. Now, you see here in the US chart, you can see that the US body politic or corporation was greatly based on relationship. That was an effort to make sure that the 7th house is fortified at the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Because we got Jupiter and Venus. Venus is fortified by accidental dignity because she's in the 7th. Let me see. Is she in the 7th? Yeah. She's in the 7th. I get confused when I have these tri-wheels sometimes. Then you got Jupiter here, which is exalted in Cancer. Then you have the sun basically forming a conjunction with Jupiter. So the 7th house then brings us to the fact that I'm not going to bore you with the treaties. The treaties that the US enters into as a fledgling body, and one of them with Morocco. And the great irony is that Morocco is actually here. But this treaty appears to be with Morocco in what we call Africa. They're paying tribute. So this body politic is greatly hinged upon treaties and foreign relationships, because you see the 9th house starts in Leo, which would deal with foreign relationship, foreign treaties and agreements. And where's the ruler? It's the sun. It's in the 7th house. So this whole thing was based on relationship with foreign countries or foreign entities. And then when we get back to the period we're in now, the US is having its Jupiter return. And it is signed while the star Sirius is rising. And I'll do something else. Oh, Natalia said, when is a Jupiter return? A Jupiter return is when Jupiter gets back to the point it was at the time of nativity. So wherever Jupiter was when you were born, let's say it was at 10 degrees of Aquarius. So whenever Jupiter hits 10 degrees of Aquarius in the transiting sky, you are having your Jupiter return. So the US is having its Jupiter return right now. So in other words, this 4th of July is significant because it is the return of Jupiter to its position at the signing of this document, which means there's an attempt to reestablish new relationships or new relationship um what's the word I'm looking for? Leverage. New relationship leverage as a body politic, the US. And they're also looking to reinvigorate the US spirit. This thing has a spirit. And this is a time to reinvigorate that spirit. The ecclesiastical connection. Another big time was 9/11. Reinvigorated the US spirit, patriotism, Patriot Act, patriot. Then the Patriots, the New England Patriots, who used to be a joke. That opened up a portal for them. Um, so here's what we've been dealing with though. I mentioned this in one of the other lives, and I'm going on and on. I'm gonna have to wrap this up at some point. And I have to just I'll put more things on Patreon when I get time. But we've been dealing with a quincunx, not a quincunx, but a couple of yods in the sky. And yods are also referred to as a finger of God. So here's a transiting sky. That's a yod. And then what we also had was Pluto and Neptune and Saturn in another yod with Mars. So Mars has been part of 2 yods. And you got to think Mars rules the 4th house in the US chart. So there's uncertainty around the state and the health of the nation. But when Trump comes out and makes this statement, he does it as the transiting moon is at 5 degrees of Leo. And where yods create confusion, this is a great way to learn about how we can bust a yod. Like in other words, how can we resolve the confusion with the yod? Well, because they don't line up by element, they don't line up by modality. How can we burst through that? Here's one way when you have an opposition to the apex, because now we got something that we can see. Even if it's a conflict, that conflict is going to help us break through the hidden tension of not being able to see where we're being attacked from. So he made a statement regarding nativity, the moon being the natural ruler of the fourth house, Cancer. And this is bringing things to light around things that have been hidden because it's Pluto opposite the moon. It's cathartic. It's a harsh pain that must come up and be acknowledged. The moon opposite Pluto. The moon opposite Pluto says we will suffer the more we try to hide from what is really going on deep within us, the more we suffer. And I especially notice when you know people with moon opposite Pluto. So although he's a trickster, but he still reveals in some type of way, he still revealed a harsh, hidden truth. That caused emotional discomfort. So that was very interesting that played out at that time. And it broke up a lot of confusion. Well, this is one way to look at this. So it's complex. You know, this is why you have to, as best you can in this time we in, you can only trust what you really know. And you can only yeah, you can only trust what you really know. And it's best to not get as emotionally attached to the things we see unfolding as best we can. And I know I talked about the negative detachment of Aquarius that we're in Uranus, but if we can find a happy medium to detach from a lot of things, the emotion, because in one regard, even this whole thing is just a distraction in itself. Because I think the bigger show is the Uranus moving into Gemini and the colonization of the human brain. Because what better time? You know, if let's just imagine if the cosmic clock says that at this particular time it is slated for certain truths to be revealed, which it is. It's Pluto moving through Aquarius. The ugly truths coming out. Then this is the perfect time to up the ante around the mechanization of humanity. It's best time. You know, because at the same time we got this discussion, they come back and roll out today with the opposite energy of Pluto and Aquarius with the focus on Leo, celebrity. 2 verdicts in, 3 verdicts in. They say Diddy's mama got a fat foot. They say Diddy's brother had diarrhea last night. You know, they on and they coming on and you know and oh, what's gonna happen to Diddy? all part of the movie. The focus now is on the filth within humanity. It ain't even about the celebrity. That was Pluto in Leo. The power of the celebrity. Now the power is shifting to the people, but it's not. See, it doesn't shift in the way we romanticize it to shift. The shift comes with the harsh realization that I'm responsible for me. That's the harsh reality, the harsh shift, which then makes us look at the bullshit within us, the people. No celebrity don't even matter. It don't matter what they're doing. It don't matter what they're doing with children. None of that shit matters. What matters is what I do with mine, what you do with yours. You know how hard it is to be a parent and to police your child and to be on top of what they are consuming? And I say this all the time. I could put out so much content. I got so much shit cuz in my head and it's about to drive me crazy, but you know, if I'm here with them and I don't choose to let them stay on an iPad for hours or to watch cartoons for hours, then I have to give up something. It's hard, you know, because if I just let somebody else have access to them, these people slick. They're sending all types of shit out, all types of little ways to really, man. You wonder why your child acting different and such, because they and it's all by design. So um you have to make your own choices on how you create your own culture. Like I said, family ain't about shit without culture. And if you don't come from a positive culture, then you have to recognize it and then you have to work and create and fix your own culture. And that's hard. That's work. And that's where the focus is. The focus, man, I wouldn't care if they stuck hot coals up his ass. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, yo, they got so many things, to pull here and there, and it's the overlay for the underlay. That Uranus coming through Gemini is like, is the hardware prepared for the software upgrade? Because that's the other side. There's an opportunity to get upgraded. Like, are you getting downloads like crazy? I am. So much that I have to make sure, I have to be measured. And just doing this live, I wasn't ready to do this live tonight, you know, to be honest, because I move slow. But I needed to at least get this out so I can at least get some out, and then I can work on the next thing because it gets piled up. Because I'm seeing stuff like we went and saw the movie Elio coming to Patreon. I got the breakdown of that. Elio. And it's nothing like what nobody else is seeing what I'm seeing. You know, this is, yeah, I'm not going to say nobody else, but I have not seen. Sometimes the way I see things is like, I don't see other people, at least not in my small purview. And I'd be like, well, damn, maybe I'm just so far out the box. I don't know. Maybe this shit just ain't, maybe I'm not right. But I swear, time be coming to show. And I'd be like, that's what I saw. And then it comes to play, you know? So I'm not gonna go through all this other. I'm gonna just say this. Once the occult tradition materialized in the West, there was an effort and edict to usher in certain energies to prevent any greater flow or movement towards simply becoming God. Because if too many souls, in my humble opinion, if too many souls advance and get on purpose, then there's less food for entities who can only dwell in this dimension. Like when I look at some of these videos of these people in like Monaco and they show them pulling up at, I don't know if it's a restaurant or whatever, and they pull up in the most exotic cars and they get out and they all had plastic surgery and they're struggling to try to get out of this, you know, $300,000-$400,000 car. And I'm looking at them, and they got on the, you know, $2,500 slippers and, Giuseppe's and all this. And I'm just looking like what it looks like pure evil. And they look miserable. They look miserable. And these entities are trapped. They're in limbo. They're in limbo. And they create the facade in this world to lure us in based on luxury. They lure us in based on laziness. They lure us in based on the need for attention. They lure us in based on fear and other things. And we aspire for their trinkets. And let me say this, don't get me wrong. I am not for walking around this motherfucker in some robe and a cane. I ain't on that shit, you know? Um, but what I'm talking about is limits. You got to have some type of self-governance that you say some shit I ain't gonna do. I'm not finna railroad nobody. I'm not about to let you have access to my soul for some shit that's gonna rust or decay. They're having all these estate sales down here in Texas. And that's another thing. They show these houses and I can feel the evilness of, cause it's like, just how many Christmas decorations can you have? You can see how people just had so much money that they just would just, oh, whatever, fill the whole garage with Christmas decorations. And they're showing all the different Tom Ford and um Jenny Chu or da 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 da, whatever the name is. And these are only, and it's like, so I'm wondering, this is somebody who's died possibly, and they left all this shit back here. And all this shit has just been thrown up on the internet. Come get this garbage. Just excess, 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 excess. But when you can create a reality where people feel so denied of basics, you can then create the God for them of excess, and they'll do anything. They do anything. And it ain't just Hollywood. It's the so-called, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So-called conscious people, all that. Everywhere. Everywhere. They'll rip you off. They'll steal from you. They tell women everything they want to hear. Oh, divine beloved queen of the earth, and you're the mother of, and got something for you. So it's wretched down here. It's wretched. And just cause somebody look a certain way or talk a certain way or whatever does not mean that they ain't just as much in the game as the person that you would readily see as the villain. So that's the end of I'm off my soapbox. Um, Yo, what's up, Dad? What's up, Divine Chakras? Um, he said Monaco visions, a deeper meaning. Yes, yes. Um, so that's all I got. I'm gonna wrap it up. I feel like I left so much meat on the bone, but that's enough. I also feel like I rambled. So that'll do it. But stay tuned. I'm about to start my Patreon back up, and I have so many things to put on there. But one thing I do want you to help me with is, of course, the basic stuff. The like and the sharing and all that, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. But if you were looking to learn astrology, tell me, let's just tell me, what are some things you are, I don't know if this works for this type of thing, but tell me, what are you curious about astrology if you do know some types of things that you're curious about learning about astrology. I'm you're welcome, Black Butterfly. You I typically don't ask people. I just put out what I'm gonna put out. But I am working on courses, and one of my clients did suggest that, because she builds courses, but why don't you kind of do like a little survey? So put in the comments, those of you who watch this on replay too, if you get this far, I appreciate you for being patient and locked in. But let me know, what are some things you're curious of, if you can think of things about astrology that you wonder about, that you would like to learn about. And I'm just kind of doing a little soft survey here, and I'll mention it throughout my videos. Say people like to predict. Oh, okay. So predictive astrology. Okay. I don't know if that's really one of my strong suits. I don't really, I'm not like let's say like the Leo King. He's big in predictive astrology. That's not really my, so I will tell you what ain't really my thing, where I don't really I don't put a lot of energy into predictive astrology. I told you all that Trump would have gout in his left foot, you know, but the houses and how each planet is. Oh, okay. Now, yeah, there we go. Okay. Personal strengths and weaknesses per the astrological chart. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now, those are definite things. Um, past lives based on the actual. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna come back through and take a screenshot of the chat when I go back through when I get some time and just notate all these things. I'm kind of build me up a little list of things. But I am working towards getting some courses going. All right. Per usual, you can find me 720astrology.com for astrological readings. I host children's readings, natal readings, synastry, composite readings, um, coaching, all that over there, 720astrology.com. My Chiron. Oh yeah. Okay, for sure. Like, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna come through and clip all these so I have me a list. And what I might do is I might do little mini courses instead of like a full, it might be little mini courses. Like to me, Chiron is a course all in itself. Cause I don't think a lot of people are looking at Chiron that had this new revelation, and it lines up with my chart. It lines up with clients' charts. Um, oh, thank you, Black Butterfly. So yeah, Cash App, $ the Gnosis 77. I appreciate everybody for showing love. Thank you, Shauna, again. Thank you, Dak Crazy. I know I sent you a text, but thank you again. And thank you to somebody else. Um, I don't know if that was Rock Easy, somebody named Raekwon, the chef. Thank you for the Cash App. All right. As always, stay down till you get up. When you get up, stay down and know the stars to know yourself. Peace.